Okay, so we've looked at profitability. Now we're going to look at liquidity. Liquidity is pretty cool in that we're really trying to understand, can you pay your way regularly, if you like, because that's critical. That's just because with profitability, of course, remember that revenue minus cost of sales is equal to gross profit, and that's profitability we're assessing here. But revenue is all credit sales, as is cost of sales or credit. So you might have absolutely no money in the bank and yet be profitable simply because this is all built on the accruals system. Of course, you would have received some money during the year, but this in itself is no signal as to how much you've received. You need to look into the bank account and look at the trade receivables. Okay, great. So it says a company can be profitable, but at the same time encounter cash flow problems. Of course, liquidity and working capital ratios give us some indication of the company's liquidity. And so we have here the current ratio. So the current ratio is really saying, look, let's compare all the current assets that you have in the short term to the current liabilities. You must have seen this at some point before in your study career, where we're sort of asking what if you had to pay off. I mean, I guess it's like anything. If I look at a statement of financial position and I look at my non-current assets here or there, I'm just going to give them the 10 million. My current assets are 1 million. My current liabilities, for example, imagine my current liabilities were 5 million. Now, look, if you think about it, your net assets, right? Your net assets are actually 11 minus 5 are actually 6 million. And your equity in effect is also 6 million, right? And that's kind of the point. Now, this looks overall good, right? Your net assets are positive. But in the short term, you're not going to be selling off your non-current assets. Imagine you had to pay off, this guy turned up tomorrow morning and wanted his money. You can't pay it. You only have 1 million in the bank. So you're going to have to sell off that asset. Imagine that was your only machine. Once you sold that, your business is done. So it's really important to be able to understand what's going on in the short term, which is why we have these current ratios. Right, so we have current ratio here, and so the first one is really your current assets divided by your current liabilities. Now, of course, current assets are composed of three key, inventory, trade receivables, short-term assets, and cash and bank, so to speak. So, of course, again, we can do some further assessment and sort of say, well, really, out of these current assets, some of them are even a bit more non-current, so to speak. There's a gradient of currency. When I say gradient of currency, a gradient of liquidity. So we think of inventory as being the hardest thing to sell. And then, of course, trade receivables, and then short-term investments, and then cash. So really, the argument here is that inventory might technically really be a non-current asset. So we should really be only looking or focusing on trade receivable and this, because we can technically sell the trade receivable invoices. When I was studying, we used to have something called the cash ratio, where we only look purely at the relationship between cash and current liability to see how liquid you were. Right. So typically with the current ratio, the argument, of course, but it is important to look at the industry. A ratio in excess of 1 is desirable because that kind of makes sense. Give or take, you have more current assets than your current liabilities. But again, it's critical to think about the industry. A decrease in ratio year on year is, if you like, especially one that is below the industry average, could indicate this company doesn't have enough cash to meet its short-term liabilities. And when I say current liabilities, I'm talking about trade payables primarily, right? The loan part, the 1 year portion of any loans you have. So the company should take more steps to improve its liquidity. So either delaying, either getting in your money early, if you like, yes, so that your current assets will increase, or delaying your current liabilities a little, if you like, in order to reduce the level of bad debts. So like the quick ratio then says, you know what, I would take away that inventory from your current assets. Just take it away so that we can really see how liquid you are, if you like. So it's almost reducing the amount of current assets you have available to match your current liabilities. Yes, pretty much the same principles. Good. So that was, if you like, cash. The next one, of course, when I study music, all this it's still an efficiency ratio. Let's look at a couple of them. How well are you managing your inventory, right? So, well, I guess the argument here is that inventory divided by cost of sales. So cost of sales is everything you have bought over the period. if you like, and really as a percentage of that, everything you've bought, what do you have left, right? So this is, so yeah, I guess one way of thinking about it, on average, if you're buying, I don't know, whatever, a batch each month. So overall, over 12 months, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Imagine you bought 12 batches overall. So that's your cost of sales, right? Everything you've bought, if you like, um, and that's left the building. And you have one left. So it means that it's come in, it's gone out, it's come in, it's gone out. So you have, if you like, on average, 1 over 12 times. So inventory, it means you're holding it, right? 1 over 12 times 365 roughly will give you, I mean, I guess you could say times 12 months is 1 over 12 times 12 months, which is 365 days, is roughly 1 month. So it literally, on average, means you're holding this stock, right, for a month. It comes in, it goes out, it comes in, it goes out, sort of thing. So generally, you want this to be low. You don't want to be holding stock for too long, right? Because the longer you hold stock, it becomes obsolete, and that's the issue. So when you see inventory holding periods increasing from one period to the next, you're worried that it's possible that they're holding stock that's becoming obsolete because it's there for too long. I mean, like go good analysis, you want a breakdown of the different types of stock. You want to look at their individual inventory holding period. This is just a very generalized answer, isn't it? Because you're taking all the inventory. I guess depending on how diverse you are as an organization. So yeah, so typically you can do things. So of course you could drop prices, maybe a bit of a marketing campaign, or whatever goods are unpopular. You can really do a few things to try and push out. But again, like I say here, let's be careful. A decrease in the inventory holding period could be desirable as the companies. Yeah, again, the key point is by pushing this out, you're making sure you have less money tied up in stock. But what's important really is that in this bid to push stock out, you might be dropping your prices. And if you drop your prices and you keep dropping them, then you're not making a profit anyway. So you're seeing a fall in profitability, right? And that's not what you want either. So it's about this balance of managing things and managing your liquidity. Okay, similar principle with receivables. The key point here is that if you sell goods, for example, you sell £1 million, say £12 million worth of goods on credit, and at the end you're owed 1 million, then if you like, it's just what percentage of all the credit sales we make are we still owed? Because it really means, right, just from a rational point of view, that's my trade receivable and that's my revenue of 12 million, and I've received 11 million, right, in the bank, 11, that means there's one outstanding. It means that if you like, I'm technically waiting for 30 days to receive it, right? Because technically you could argue this 11 is made up of receiving one after every 30 days. So because of revenue, you would sell one and wait for 30 days, it comes in. You sell one, you wait for 30 days, it comes in. And now I'm just at that point again where I now just have one left. So because people think in days, that's why we multiplied. I mean, I could have just stopped as a percentage and just said 1 over 12. Oops, sorry. Oh, how did I get here? 1 second. I could have just said 1 over 12 and looked at it as a percentage. But this isn't enough. It's best to multiply by 365 to think of it in terms of the amount of time you're waiting, if you like, to receive your money. Okay, great. So typically any increases in this means that it's taking too long and your receivables are increasing as a percentage of sales, and it starts to mean there's a potential here that you will be liable to bad debt. And so there are many ways you could think about it. Offering discounts, improving credit control, checking customers before you have them, prevention, as opposed to the other way around. If it's falling, it means you're doing well at increasing, bringing in your funding. Again, I guess it might be to do with the fact that you're giving extremely good, very good discounts to get the money in, but at least it's about looking at the question and being able to understand why there's been a change. And then finally, your payables, which is literally the same thing, in literally the opposite, saying what percentage of your credit purchases, if you like, are you still, if you like, owing, if you like. So you've made certain, because typically you bought all these on credit, haven't you? So really what percentages you still owing, and you do exactly the same thing and multiply by 365. So typically, again, if this starts to increase, well, it means that yes, you have more money in the bank in terms of it's delayed in leaving the bank, so you have it available, but you're risking goodwill with your suppliers, and then of course they might shorten their credit terms next time and not give you the credit you need, and then you could be in a bit of trouble. So that's important here. Okay, so yeah, why not? Let's have a go at this. Let's have a go at this question. It says calculate the liquidity ratios and the working capital ratios. So let's look at the liquidity ratios. And so of course here we're looking at, let's look at the current asset, current liability, the current ratio. And our current assets here are your trade receivable, your cash, short-term investments, and your inventory. So I'm just going to add all those together. So I have 147.9 plus 393.4 plus 53.8 plus 6.2 divided by my current liabilities, which is my trade payable, and this is other current. So I have here 284.3 plus 275.1. Yes. So let's just do that very quickly. And we have here 147.9 plus 393.4 plus 53.8 plus 6.2, and that gives you 601.3 divided by 284.3 plus 275.1, and this is here 559.4. So I'll just divide that 601.3, and here I have here 1.07. So a ratio of 1.07 to 1. They're healthy. It's greater than 1. I could do exactly the same thing for my quick ratio. My quick ratio literally says do this, but take off inventory. So literally 601.3. So basically this thing here, 601.3 minus 147.9 divided by exactly the same thing here, divided by 559.4. So just doing 601.3 minus 147.9 divided by 559.4, which is 0.81 to 1, so weaker. So this means that for every pound I owe, I only have 81p to pay it. Here, for every pound I owe, I have £1.07 to pay. So those are my liquidity ratios, first of all. Let's look at my trade receivable or inventory turnover. So closing inventory is given to me at 147.9, and really I just need to work out my cost of sales, if you like, by subtracting these two, don't I? I mean, that's sales revenue and that's gross profit, so my cost of sales must have been the difference. So I have 1867.5 minus 489.3, and then here you'd have had 1378.2, and so we have 147.9 divided by 1378.2, if you like, and then I multiply this by 365 times 365. 147.9 divided by 1378.2 times 365 is 39 days. This is taking 39 days on average, 39.16 days to push. That's how long these goods are sitting in there, if you like, on average, because this is across your entire inventory. Let's look at your trade receivable days. So your trade receivable days, you can see here we have 393, so nice one, 393, pretty straight, divided by sales revenue, which is 1867.5 times 365. So what do? I do 393.4 divided by 1867.5, and then I multiply all of that by 365, and then I have 76 days. Well, you're spending quite a sorry, it's taking 76 days for you to, or 77, well, 76.88. So let's just say 77 days. 77 days to call in that debt. That's greater than 2 months. We're talking here 60, almost 2.5 months to be able to bring in your debt. So you need to get on that. You need to get on that. Cash, I can see is, well, we can do a cash ratio, but the key point here is we can see why your quick ratio is less than 1. And then the final thing we're going to do here was your trade payable days, which would have been 275.1, of course, divided by the your cost of sales, which is 1378.2 times 365, right? Because that's your trade payable. Cost of sales is the difference between these guys. So you have 275.1 divided by 1378.2 times 365, and you have 72 days. So well, I guess in a way you have to kind of have yours late as well, because if it's taking you 76 days for your money to come in, then I can see why you're delaying in terms of paying as well. So those are how we deal with those. Those are the answers. And we can make, again, like I say, we can discuss the interpretation of those by virtue of knowing what happens just by looking at the days. If we can reduce our receivable days, it means that we're getting the money in earlier. If we reduce our if we reduce our receivable days, it means we're getting the money earlier. If we reduce our payable days, it means we're paying our suppliers earlier. Okay, see you in the next video.